Well, in many ways, Vancouver Island has been built on a foundation of coal, but many of the past coal mining fortunes were paid for with lives lost and families left behind. Bruce Kirkpatrick reports.
In the early 1850s, Vancouver Island was the only source of coal on the west coast of North America. The black rock was in tremendous demand. Coal was discovered around Cumberland in 1852, and by the 1870s, there were 600 miners working 8 coal mines in the area. February 15, 1901, it began as just another day in the mines of Cumberland. 10:40 a.m. when
there was a tremendous explosion from mine number 6 of the Union Coal Company. Timbers that were 12 by 18 were thrown 100 meters into the air, and the blast knocked men off their feet half a mile away in mine number 5.
64 miners lost their lives, leaving 10 widows and 35 children behind, more overseas. A rescue attempt was hopeless in a disaster 112 years ago this week in history.
Trying to get the cage back down the shaft, but the guides were gone and it got jammed 40 feet down. Realizing that they were far too late, as the widows gathered, there was nothing they could do and that the mine was on fire. And it was time to fill the mine all the way up to the surface with water, which meant absolutely no one would survive.
There's a scale model of Cumberland Mine number 6 at the Royal BC Museum, and equipment miners used, including a canvas cap for protection underground. In the 1800s, miners would use open flame oil lamps. At the turn of the century, they used carbide lamps with open flame. Sometimes they even used candles put on iron spikes and hammered into wooden supports in hot, cramped tunnels. And the story of the canary in the mine is true.
In some areas, the oxygen ceases to exist and carbon monoxide might be filling the tunnel. The lungs of the canary will catch that first, and the canary will die before you fall to sleep permanently. So if your canary stops singing, it's time to run.
These were the days when Robert Dunsmuir was a coal mining capitalist, days when activist Ginger Goodwin fought for safer conditions. Over the years, 295 miners died in the mines of Cumberland, the most dangerous in BC. But others died too. There were many explosions.
The biggest on Vancouver Island was the loss of 148 lives in the Nanaimo at the number 1 mine in 1887.
Today, Ginger Goodwin's grave remains at the Cumberland Cemetery, part of the violent history of digging for black rock.
This Week in History, brought to you by the Royal BC Museum, bringing British Columbia's stories together.